Speaking of shoehorning, as you know, Donald Trump announced very late relative to European countries, and one would expect when you have, look, American, or I should say air travel and across the board has become so incredibly advanced and safe in the past 20 or 30 years that it's sort of stunning. So when you have an airplane that goes down, and it's a specific airplane that goes down twice in a relatively short period of time relative to the timeline of airline crashes, and you have an extended record of pilots reporting, hey, there's something wrong here, right? It should be a fairly obvious reaction to grounding the planes. Now,
They're
of
just
course,
trying to not work.
Donald Trump, right. Donald Trump, of course, has a deep relationship with Boeing. They're his favorite. They're big supporters. They give money to the inauguration. All good things.
Best planes.
Best planes. And so he did not immediately ground these planes, but later did and made a big show of it that he was going to do it. How does he know that there's something wrong with these planes? Maybe it's the fact that there's been reams written about it. Maybe there's all the reports from the pilots. No, ladies and gentlemen, he gets under the hood. How do we know? Well, Katie Pavlich tells us how.
Black boxes, which will give them a ton of information. Flying is still it's the safest way to get around the world, around the country. Much safer than driving in your car.
Pause
that's
it.
for
Incidentally,
sure.
I think Katie Pavlich must know that you cannot drive around the world because of the oceans. But go ahead.
Safer than driving in your car. That's for sure. But there are reports of U.S. pilots complaining and reporting problems with this plane that are similar to what happened with these flights that went down. Now, they have to ask the question about standards of training. Are the pilots in the United States are getting the same training on the Boeing as the pilots overseas? And that might not be the case. There could be different standards in training that are not being upheld. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But I will say, to give President Trump some credit, everyone's like, oh, what does he know about planes? The guy's owned planes his entire life, and when you own a private plane, you know about the way it functions. So I think people are a little bit critical of that.
Get off my lawn.
Now,
Totally.
this is about as ridiculous of a take as you possibly could get. First off,
Have you owned a plane?
I have not owned a plane.
Well, there you
So
go.
maybe you don't know.
I have owned cars for the better part of my life, and if there was something wrong with a specific model of a car, I would have really no more insight into it than anyone else. A.
Because
B.
you don't study.
I also, there is a difference between a private plane and a 737 or whatnot, but even if there weren't, I mean, the idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I went
that
to Wharton. You went to Connecticut College, and I
Got
got the
wings
highest
and
mark.
engines.
I'm going to take a look under the engine. Just before I come on, I like to sit, talk to the pilots about the computer-assisted navigation tools and
I had the highest marks at Wharton.
Lot better
no.
service privately.
Hey, Mike Pompeo, you need to call Wharton, threaten to drop a drone on them if they release my grades.
They are very selective about when they think standpoint epistemology is okay.
That's
Right.
unbelievable. These guys are just completely nuts.
Got to be very selective with
Don't you contradict my lived experience.